We are live, Believe Nation. Happy Wednesday. Wednesday is my project day. I like having one day per week to focus on the projects that I've got. I think overscheduled entrepreneurs don't get a lot of stuff done. So having some time to be able to focus on whatever it is that you want to focus on, I think really helps. I'm going to introduce you to a return who you're going to know and love. We're going to have a conversation on productivity that's going to be pretty epic. So I just sent the invite, and there she is.
Hi,
Forleo
Evan.
in the house. We're back.
How are you? I was
I'm
just
great.
listening to you talk about Wednesdays, and that's your project day.
Yeah, so I like chunking. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about time management here today, but I like chunking my days out. My Tuesdays are YouTube day, and it's just video nonstop, like in the studio. We're creating like crazy. And Thursdays tomorrow are always interviews and podcasts and shows and crazy. So like the one day in the middle is project day. So it's creativity day, a lot of open time. Whatever I want to work on, I go and work on. And one of those things I want to work on is talking to Marie Forleo about what she's up to. The last time you came on, so we did this on Instagram. We put it to YouTube. It's got over 500,000 views now, which is super exciting. You just came out of your surgery, out of that crazy life change for you, and now you're here launching a new program, Time Genius. Give us the quick update on what's new in the world of Marie Forleo.
Oh, it's going so good. First of all, fall is one of my favorite seasons now that it's officially here. And I'm like looking around in my neighborhood and the trees are just starting to turn and the pumpkins are coming out. So from a just life perspective, things feel really fresh and good. And I feel like this time of year is always so reminiscent for many of us about like going back to school and kind of digging back in and diving into learning new things. And so company-wise, we are in the midst of, we're so excited, this new program that's called Time Genius, which is really giving people a paradigm shift around time so they can be joyfully productive. So whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an employee, one of the things that I just was noticing for honestly, the past 5 or 6 years, but it feels like it's kept getting more intense and more intense over time, was just hearing myself and then hearing other people I talk to always express this feeling of being behind, of feeling overstretched, of feeling overcommitted, like they can't ever catch up, that there's so much to do, there's so little time, people feeling stressed out, burnt out, some people having health challenges, talking to other fellow entrepreneurs and people going like, God, the pace that I used to keep, and it feels like there's just so much coming at me all the time between emails and social and incoming and potential projects and my family. It just all started to feel like too much. And I was like, there's something wrong here because I'm a smart person. You're a smart person. So many of people in our audience, we are intelligent, we're earnest, we're hardworking, but it's like something wasn't matching up. And I was feeling like this culture has us believing some things that are just simply unsustainable. And what's happening in the personal can oftentimes be happening in the global as well. And I think there's some interesting parallels there between the fact that, how we're operating, many of us, has been an unsustainable type of setup in terms of working way too many hours, not taking enough breaks, and constantly feeling or believing like we're not enough. And I know belief is so big for you, Evan. That is your theme. That is one of your biggest mantras, is helping people believe in themselves. And the power of beliefs, right? If you believe that there's not enough time, if you believe that you're not doing enough, that you're never getting the right things done, that you're always behind, that is going to be your experience of life. And one of the things that we know from end of life studies, and we do have this research and we do have this data, is when people come to the end of their journey on this plane, one of their number one regrets is that they didn't live their life in a way that was true to them, but in a way that other people expected of them. And I think for many of us, we've been kind of adhering to other people's expectations, whether those are explicit or implicit, or just what we notice other people around us doing. For example, this constant drumming of the message of 24/7 hustle culture. And look, I love my work. I'm so passionate about it. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So it's not about not loving what you do. But at some point, I think, again, about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to notice it was like this gross exaggeration, this unattainable, unsustainable expectation that I was like, this isn't healthy. I don't want any part of it. So Time Genius is our answer to that.
I love it. So for the YouTube audience, we'll link that in the description below. Go check out the Time Genius down there. It's got to be one of the most common questions that I get asked by entrepreneurs who are starting out, trying to juggle everything, maybe already have a job and trying to figure out work, home, kids, business. Like, what do you tell them? What's the advice that you give an entrepreneur who's like, I have no time, Marie. I have no time for anything. What do I do?
Yes. Well, first of all, it's like that is actually the first thing that we want to start to investigate. And that's one of the first things that we want to change, because how we speak to ourselves, it's like we're fish swimming in water. We don't even realize it all the time. And right, if you're saying like, I don't have the time, I don't have the time, I don't have the time, while this sounds really cliched and simplistic, it comes back to neuroplasticity and what we know from research and our minds. If you say that constantly, you are physically driving those grooves into your brain. It's kind of like, plowing snow off of your driveway or railroad tracks, right? If you keep drilling that sentence and sentiment in, either you're saying it in your own head or you're saying it out loud or simply a combination. And when you're doing it from a place of emotional intensity, like stress or overwhelm or fear, that is going to be your lived experience. And the more those grooves get set into place, it becomes a pattern. And again, something else we know from research is that we human beings live about 40% of our life out of habit or pattern. So if you keep saying that, then that will be your experience, whether you're at the beginning of your journey, at the middle of your journey, when your business actually starts working and you're like, oh my God, I got to grow it. I've got to hire a team, right? And I have all these projects that I have to do. And then even if you're more seasoned as an entrepreneur, that groove will still be there and you'll still create it. So the first place we need to look is you have to stop conditioning yourself and stop speaking yourself into, I don't have enough time. So here's a mantra that I use, and it's helped me amazingly when it comes to kind of backing out of overwhelm and starting to change my own habits and my own thoughts around this, is that I always have time for what's most important. I always have time for what's most important. So yes, there might be a lot on your plate right now, but if you come from a space of, I always have time for what's most important, it slows you down. It helps you kind of dial back on the stress. And what that mantra intrinsically prompts you to figure out is, well, what's most important? So there's kind of a lot embedded under there in terms of helping us realize that, first of all, not everything can be important, because that would actually defy the definition of priorities, right? You can't have multiple priorities. There needs to be one. But second, it helps you start to decide, well, what is most important at this stage and season of my life? So if you're at the beginning, it might be about going like, okay, I can't expect myself to do an hour workout every day and meditate twice a day for 20 minutes and then be the most perfect parent, walk my dog for an hour every day. It might be about giving yourself the grace and space to recognize, I'm starting a business. This is a really heavy lift. Maybe I also have a job on the side too, which is also a very heavy lift. Where can I release some of the pressure and the expectations that I have on myself to be a super person, superman, superwoman, superhuman, and create a little bit of a runway so I can say, you know what, for the next 6 months, I'm not going to work out every single day of the week, but maybe I'm going to work out 3 days a week. And on the off days, I'm going to take a walk around the block or do something really light or do a 5-minute workout. And that's going to be enough. How can I enlist my family or my friends to support me? Because this is really an important long-term goal. And maybe you're not going to do a home-cooked meal every single night, or your kids or other people can pitch in, or you can do potlucks, right? It's about kind of using that figure-outable philosophy. But I think where we get ourselves into trouble, generally speaking, in terms of where we start, is we don't recognize the power we have in our own minds, in our own bodies, in our own ability to speak our reality into existence. And of course, that doesn't dismiss the very real challenges that we have with, like, there's only 24 hours in a day. We need sleep. But if you don't start with what you can control on the inside, which includes your mind and your heart and your beliefs, nothing on the outside will ever be enough. You can't change your circumstances enough. You wouldn't be able to get less hours on the job, because that same belief track, which is I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough time, will still be running. So you can move the chess pieces around exteriorly, but if you don't change this first, you're never going to have what we like to call in Time Genius the experience of being joyfully productive. And what does that mean? That means the experience of like what you're talking about, Adam, where you're like, I've got my projects to do today, right? Today is a day where I get to create something. I get to be present in my life. I get to be there with my kids, my partner, my loved one, and not be looking at my phone or my computer or thinking that I should be 5 or 10 or 20 different other places, or beating myself up because I didn't get enough done at work. So now I'm really not present, but I'm wanting to get back there. That's what we want to go for in Time Genius. It's really an inside out transformation so that however it feels really good to your heart and soul, and that's aligned with your values.
I love it. Marie Forleo is preaching here, ladies and gentlemen. I love it. It's great. Talk to me about judgment. Okay, so yesterday, for example, I spent maybe a quarter of my day listening to Pet Shop Boys Go West at 1.25 speed for whatever reason, and it led me down this rabbit hole that eventually led to this really cool new idea that I could bring to my customers. But it was a lot of mess, and there was no real intention with it, just besides, I like this, so I'm going to listen to the song on repeat for whatever reason. And somebody asked me, doesn't that feel like a waste of time? And sometimes it leads somewhere, and sometimes it doesn't. And my best answer is really, I don't know. I don't judge myself for following my creativity, but I don't really know how to teach that component. So many people are judging themselves for not being a better mom or not being a better entrepreneur or not being a better husband or wife or whatever. How do we start to loosen the judgment? Because when you say, well, I'm not going to do a home cooked meal today, then that voice, so now I'm a crappy mom or dad if I didn't make that meal. So how do we get over the judgment to then start making our time more effective?
I think it becomes really about self-compassion. And I didn't expect this to be such a big part of the Time Genius program when I was putting it together. But one of the themes that we talk about consistently is how when you're in the Time Genius zone, you have so much self-compassion. You have so much kindness for you. Because what you're talking about really, Evan, is the fact that most of us exist in this space of endless comparison, the compare and despair, right? So we have either these idealized versions of ourselves that we're constantly comparing ourselves to, or the folks that we see on social media that we have these warped notions of how perfect they are and that we're never measuring up. So I think it comes back to understanding if you actually are engaging in that compare and despair and go, I'm not doing that today. Like, not today. No, who I am is enough. Me showing up and being present in is enough. And really taking a step back to challenge the assumptions that you have in your head about who you're supposed to be. Like, where did those ideas come from? And if you actually slow yourself down and investigate that, and you have the courage to be honest with yourself, you will uncover exactly who you're comparing yourself to, or those outdated definitions of success that you might have formed when you were a kid about, for example, my mom is an amazing human. God bless her. She's still alive. Her greatest joy and some of her greatest goals in life were around having a family. She wanted to have a family. So cooking a home cooked meal every single night, making sure that the house was how she wanted it, taking care of things so that my dad and my brother and myself, that we were okay. Like, that was her life's goal and aspiration. And it's not mine, but as a young girl, I was thinking like, oh, well, that's what it means to be a successful woman, because that was the example that I saw. And again, you can do the same thing with social media, right? If you kind of are comparing yourself to someone else and you're going, well, I'm falling short. If you just challenge that assumption and ask, like, where am I getting this idea from? Why am I believing that who I am as a human being is not enough, and going like, no, I'm more than enough. This self-compassion piece. My journey is unique. So me as an individual, talking about my mom, I knew very clearly when I was young that I didn't necessarily want to get married and I didn't necessarily want to have kids, which was a huge departure from my kind of familial script from my Italian American family, right? And so that takes work to have the courage to define success for yourself and to keep, this is really a practice, to keep clearing out that compare and despair that fills up so much of our world because we are on things like this. Like, this is a beautiful form of social media, in my opinion, where you and I not only get to have this conversation, we have these beautiful people here. This is also going to be on YouTube, so there'll be more beautiful people that we'll be connecting with, and we can learn ideas from each other and share possibilities. That's awesome when it comes to technology and social. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't also talk about the flip side of it, right? How many of us can use these platforms to measure ourselves against other people and then come up short, and all of a sudden our lives are somehow not enough, when in reality it's that thought that's creating the pain, not the reality of our circumstances. And that's all an inside job. So I know that was a very kind of long answer.
No, it's great.
Yeah, if that helped. Because the moment you catch yourself saying, I'm not enough, and you have the wisdom and you slow down enough to find out who you're comparing yourself to, why you're thinking that, that's the beginning of kind of untangling the knottiness of that pain-filled thought pattern.
Well, I love, like, the long answer is fantastic because it gives depth. It's not just a one-liner. I mean, we love the Marie quotables too and share those, and you're great at it. But the depth of knowledge is great to help people actually make the next step. You know, your mantra for the first part was, I always have time for what's important.
For what's important.
Right. What would your mantra be for this, for the judgment piece?
So let's see, we can create one. And I think one of the best things, you know, about mantras, so mine always come out of just this wildly configured brain and heart. And I always encourage people to make their own. But for me, it's like, I'm doing my life the very best I can. I'm doing my life the very best I can. And once it comes back to my life, for me, that sentence helps seat me in the uniqueness of my own journey, right? I'm doing my life to the very best I can. And it kind of reroots me in the fact that my journey is distinct from everyone else's. My journey is mine alone. And God, the universe, creator, whatever you believe in, Smurf fairies, my core belief is that I was put here for a very unique reason. My path is unlike anyone else's. And the moment I start comparing myself to other people, the moment I get into me versus them, I'm miserable. There's no creativity that's possible. I don't feel good about myself. I'm not contributing. I'm not connecting to the people I'm actually with. I'm just stuck in this mental, emotional sinkhole of feeling like crap. And from that space, it's like, nothing good is possible. So that was just a little made up mantra in the moment. I don't know if that's what I'd stick with, but that would be like my first draft.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Let's go down a sister path here of procrastination. So I think a lot of people are, and I know you covered in Time Genius, a lot of people are stuck procrastinating. A lot of it is just that overthinking, that comparison, overthinking. So if somebody's just got this great idea, they know they're capable of more, they've got this in them, they want to serve, they want to do it all the right reasons, and yet it's like, I just can't make the video or write that book or launch. There's always something, there's always some mental block. So what do you advise entrepreneurs who are stuck in their head and can't get over procrastination?
Procrastination, this is a really good one. So first layer is to actually do a check-in with yourself. Do you actually want to reach this goal or have this experience? I think that is a first level gut check, because sometimes we can see that other people have something, they've experienced something. We might feel that little pang of envy or jealousy and think that we want it too, but then we don't really want it, right? It's like, if you're not actually doing something, you have to really do a gut check. Like, do I really want this? So that would be the first layer of check-in. Oftentimes we think we should want to do something because society has told us that this is what you do when you are X successful, or this is what you should want when you're going on this particular path. Let me give you a concrete example, and then we'll get back to procrastination. So we're going to go on a little bit of a side trip, but hopefully it'll make sense. So I remember when I was just getting started in my dance career, and I was 25, which in the dance world is greatly over the hill, especially when you're starting in hip hop and street dance. And I just remember going to my first ever class at Broadway Dance Center in New York City. And this is where all the pros go. And I mean, these incredible humans had been training since like they were 3 or 4, you know, and so they're probably around the age of like 18 or 19. They're complete professionals. Here I am at like 25, never taken a professional dance class in my life. And I remember feeling so intimidated that I almost didn't do the class, a form of procrastination, right? Just so terrified and so fearful. Finally took the class, cried because my body was so happy to be in there. But I started looking around and I'm like, wow, everybody's going on auditions and everyone's like going on tours and doing all these things. That must be what you do as a professional dancer. And so, Evan, I started trying to put myself in all of these different experiences, like going on auditions, getting headshots, thinking this is what I have to do. But something didn't feel right. It was like I was chasing these goals that I thought I should be chasing if I wanted to be a real dancer. Cut to some really unfortunate situations. I made such a fool out of myself. I remember this one Missy Elliott particular audition that I literally walked out of the room crying because I couldn't keep up with all the choreography. It was so mortifying and so embarrassing. Fast forward a little bit. I still loved dance, but I loved dance in a fitness environment because it wasn't necessarily about performing on these big stages. It was actually about teaching everyday people how to move their body in such a way where they felt great. And for me, that was like my sweet spot, right? It was encouraging people. It was teaching them to do something that they didn't believe they could do. So a few months later, this opportunity came up. Nike, the company, was starting this new program called the Nike Rockstar Workout. And they were specifically looking for people who had a talent when it came to dance, and specifically hip hop and street dance, and who also were really good at instructing and motivating. And so I wound up becoming one of the world's first Nike Elite dance athletes, but I could have never even become that if I was chasing another goal to be a real dancer going on tours and doing music videos, because that wasn't my path. Does that make sense? So when it comes to the procrastination discussion, I feel like sometimes we're chasing goals that the world has set for us, but we don't really want them, but we don't know what else we want. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to step away from something everyone thinks you should do, and you're just kind of doing it because you think it should be the next step, but it's not really your step. So that's level 1 of procrastination. Level 2, if you definitely want this thing, you want to write the book, you want to create the course, you want to start the company, you want to move to a new country, whatever that goal is, and you seem to be procrastinating about it, you got to put some bumpers in place. And what do I mean by bumpers? I mean that you need deadlines, and most people need support. Some form of accountability. For me, one of the best forms of accountability is actually public accountability. I learned this early on in my career. One of the best ways for me to make sure that I launched a new product was to set a deadline for when it was going to launch and then announce it publicly, so I would have to do it. Other people, and I did this with a project early on in my career, I wanted to write my first book, and I just found myself not like kind of wiggling out of actually getting it done. And the thing that really turned the corner for me was hiring a book coach, someone that I could check in with. And it was worth that investment of money to have someone that I respected, who I had to produce pages for, who would give me feedback. So I had to put those bumpers in place in order to move that goal ahead. I think people greatly underestimate the power of deadlines. Deadlines are huge. If you don't have one, you need to give yourself one. And the bigger you can make the stakes for not reaching it, the better when it comes to procrastination. So there's just 2 little ideas to get people started.
I love it. And you mentioned courage. And I think a lot of people, they're watching live or they're watching a YouTube video and like, yeah, that's right, I'm going to go do my thing. The energy is real. They're going to go. But then the next day you wake up and like, where did all that courage go? I can't. I'm fooling myself. I can't write that book. Or I can't make a YouTube video. And the self-doubt starts to creep in again, and the courage seems to be gone. So obviously getting programs like Time Genius, link in the description below, can definitely help. And having what you give as people a roadmap, and it makes it feel like it's possible. It's not this overwhelming, impossible thing that, hey, follow
Correct.
these modules and we're going to teach you how to do it. So that is definitely one step. How do you, what's the next step to just making it more consistent in the follow through? So it's not just, okay, I have the information, Time Genius gave me the knowledge. How do I actually follow through on it?
Yeah, 100%. So if we stick with the procrastination example for just a moment, I think we can even take it further. One of the tools that I'll teach you how to use in Time Genius is simple, and you should use it right now and to start using it. This is especially good for big projects like a book or something like that have a pretty long lead time. and there are many different pieces to it, and it can feel overwhelming. And if you fall off the wagon, it's just that road's going to get longer and longer. It's something called a reverse calendar. So what's a reverse calendar? A reverse calendar is a way to help yourself break a big project down into digestible chunks with all of these mini milestones along the way, so that it feels less, oh my God, how am I going to get all these things done? And all the ideas are swirling around in your head, and you're like, but the cover and the editor and this and that, you're all over the place. A reverse calendar says, what is the date by which I want to have my first draft manuscript done? You actually open up a calendar and you see, you know, whether it's 6 months from now, 3 months from now, 9 months from now, whatever, but you have a clear, firm deadline date. Then you look at whatever the date is today, and you start to reverse engineer all of the little milestones that you must hit in order to get that first draft manuscript done. So for me, when I was working on my book, Everything is Figureoutable, I used a version of a reverse calendar because it helped me get out of that sense, Evan, of feeling like, oh my gosh, there's so much I need to write. Like, how am I ever going to get all this done? To being able to see a mini milestone ahead of me where I'm like, if I can just get there and just focus on that for this next week or 2 weeks, I can breathe. I can be okay. And then once that little mini milestone was done on my reverse calendar, it was like, oh, there's the next one. So you were asked about follow through. These are the kinds of tools that we can use. They're all free, that can help us develop that ability to be consistent and to stay on track with long-term projects that could really change the trajectory of our career or our lives. But most of us just haven't been exposed to them, and we haven't been taught either how to set up our entire life so that it is supportive of whatever we call in Time Genius, your primary project of that thing getting done. So one of the other keys actually to staying consistent is not taking on too much at once. I think it is it's just, I've seen it time and time again with myself. I've seen it with so many folks in our audience. We're super passionate, we're super creative, we're super ambitious, and those things are beautiful traits, and we want to honor them. And when you have 5 big projects that you want to get done in the next 3 months, that puts people in a space of feeling paralyzed and frozen and overwhelmed, and like nothing ever happens. So another piece of that puzzle of consistency is actually not taking on too much, scaling back, and doing what I call simplify to amplify, which we take you through all that in Time Genius too.
I love it. Last question. Talk to me about joy. So,
yes,
you know, you talk about time management, and a lot of the time management principles have been around forever. I think what you're doing with Time Genius is making it 2021 relatable, and also introducing some of the new science and new technologies. But the Marie magic, you know, is joy. It's like, how do you do this and not just be this super efficient robot, but like that you love your life? And nobody talks about time management and joy together. And when I saw that, it's like, yes, I love this. So tell us, I mean, it may be obvious, but tell us why joy, and then how do we put joy as a core value into our calendar?
100%. Well, I think it's so important. And honestly, the place that we've all been, right, for the last 18 months, and we don't know how much longer until as a global society, we can get the pandemic behind us. We don't know where we're at with that. And for me, having a joyful life, it's like we work so hard. Everyone listening right now, they work so hard to take care of their families, to take care of themselves, to try and do their best by their community and all the people that they have responsibilities towards. And sometimes I've experienced this where it's like, you're exhausted, you're burnt out, you just feel like I've got nothing else to give. And I'm like, this is not how we're designed to live. There's like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? Of working so hard, even if you're making great money or you're making an impact, if you yourself aren't happy and joyful, if you're not having a good time along the way, it's all for naught. Again, I get really obsessed with those end of life studies. And because people tell us, right, we have this incredible data and research from thousands of souls who have gone before us, who have reached the end of their life, and they have insight and wisdom to share. And almost all of them said, I think it was maybe like the 3rd or 4th regret, this is Bronnie Ware's The 5 Regrets of the Dying, the top 5 regrets of the dying. Almost all of them said, I wished I allowed myself to be happier. I wished I allowed myself to be happier. And when you really stop and think about that, and I'm paraphrasing a little, they might have not gotten the words perfectly right, but that was the essence of it. I allowed myself to be happier. And Evan, I don't know, have you experienced this? Have you ever gone through periods in life where you put your head down and you worked really hard and maybe you stressed out and you're like, whew, gosh, that was done, but it wasn't that enjoyable? I mean, I certainly have,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
tortured myself. I just was so tight and so constricted. And I realized, I'm like, all of these different little seasons of my life, when you string them together, are my life. So if I don't train myself to bring joy to as many moments as possible, it's not always going to happen. And there's some really crappy, hard things that happen in all of our lives. So this is not about being no toxic positivity. This is not about being unrealistic. But there's many times throughout my day where I'm like, I could be enjoying myself a lot more, right? Like if I'm working on something, I can bring that party to whatever I'm doing. And oftentimes, especially when there's those tedious tasks that we all have to do, whether it's emptying your dishwasher, doing the laundry, pipe breaks, right? And you have to clean something up. These are the things that all of us go through. Your car breaks down, something unexpected happens and you're like, oh my goodness. You can either go handle that from a place of being just angry and upset and complaining and beating yourself or the world up. Why is it like this? Or I've decided, I'm like, as much as humanly possible, I want to bring the party, which means I'm going to turn on some music. I'm going to laugh at myself. I'm going to laugh at life because stuff happens that you don't expect. And it can either be a shit show or it can be like, you know what? This is life. So I might as well have a good time with it. And I think one of the experiences of being a time genius is to also prioritize what brings you joy. So is it laying in the grass and staring at the clouds? Is it allowing yourself some non-guilty time on the couch to watch your favorite Netflix show? Is it being with your dog or with your kids or cooking a meal or just reading a great novel? I think that we did research with our audience, Evan, and we have responses from, I think at this point, it's over 15,000 folks about how they feel about their time. And I was so struck by how many people feel guilty and feel like they're not productive enough the moment they slow down and try and take a rest, that there was no joy, that they didn't even feel like they deserved to feel joyful, because any time that they kind of looked away from work, they had this overwhelming thought that they should be doing something more productive. So the reason for me to emphasize joy and time genius is not because it works, but it's also because it's so necessary. I don't want to see any of us, myself, you, anyone who's tuning in right now, get to the end of their one precious life and look back and go, gosh, I wish I allowed myself to just be happier.
I love it. What a message.
Yeah.
The legend, Marie Forleo in the house. The program is called Time Genius. YouTube will link it up in the description below. Thank you, Marie, for your time today, for injecting so much joy into my community as well. And
I just want to thank you too. And the more that I've gotten to know who you are and what you stand for and what you believe, I just admire you so much, because one of the things that I've learned on this journey, it's like belief really is everything, right? It's what we believe about ourselves and that ability to believe in ourselves, and that we're capable of creating change and being different and learning and growing. And you're just such an incredible example of that. So thank you for taking the time on your Wednesday project day to have this conversation. It really means the world.
I'm working on accepting compliments, so I received that. Thank you, Marie.
Good. You deserve it. You deserve it. And I'm so grateful for everyone for tuning in. Also, too, depending on when this goes up and when you check it out, if you go to jointimegenius.com, we've got a free masterclass. Jointimegenius.com. We've got a free masterclass up. It's awesome. It's about the 3 toxic lies that keep you overwhelmed, overstretched, and under earning, and how to break free now. So even if Time Genius isn't for you as the program, go take that masterclass, because it'll help you start to think differently and recognize all of the ways that kind of our culture has just fed this notion of constant nonstop work, and it's not the only way to be.
I love it. Jointimegenius.com for the free masterclass too. We love you, Marie. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. See you soon. Okay, bye.
Take care.